inglés, en español, francés, French.
Portugués.
Okay, Portuguese. Okay. And but first of all, want to thank the diocese. We hosted us here. We got to spend a little bit of time. I can't go into the details about. There's a legal process that has to be followed, and I'll let the attorney answer any questions on the legal process, but we'll talk generally. As you know, this is a situation that I'm familiar with. First time I heard about it, I got contacted by the county judge, Richard Cortez, and then the city manager for the city of McAllen also. They were asking me to look into this. I then reached out to Secretary Mullins at that time. I also reached out to Tom Homan. As you know, Border Czar, I've known both of them for a long time. The secretary when he was a congressman, and of course Tom Homan, he's a career person that's been around for many years. Now as a Border Czar, but he used to do work for ICE. So we then I explained the situation to them, and especially to Mr. Homan. And she, as you know, she got released. They were going to release her the next day on a Sunday, and you know the story. She was walking to church on her religious nun garb, and I said, hey, they're supposed to release her tomorrow. He said, no, I'm going to make sure she gets out today, and she got released back on that Sunday. From there, as you know, a little bit after that, there was a situation with the hearing concerns that they were going to put a monitor on her. The concern that they were going to maybe deport her at that particular time. And Father, thank you again for hosting us here. We thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. So I then, without going into details as to, we have a general idea of who I spoke to, but I then voiced my concerns about a monitor ankles to the monitor ankles. I don't think that was right. It would not be proper. And of course, deportation. My expectations, I said before, without going into details, was there was going to be no deportation. There was going to be no monitoring ankle monitor, and it was supposed to be a routine situation. The next steps, Mr. Garcia, he's the person to talk to over here. He's a very able attorney. He can talk about whatever he can talk about the next process. I am familiar with the legal situation, but I'm not going to talk about it. I'll leave it to the legal representative. I do know some of the steps that probably will have to happen on that, but again, I will leave it up to her attorney. But I am monitoring this very, very, very carefully. Moving on to the other situation with the pastors, I got a call from a pastor in Laredo, Gilberto Velez. Said, hey, one of my colleagues, the pastor, his family, they were going off to a Billy Graham retreat. I got stopped at the airport. They got picked up. Then I called somebody on it. They told me not to mention names anymore. I did mention Tom Holman because that was at the very beginning. But now I just say that I did talk to somebody. They said, we'll look into it. Got a call back, and they said, we're going to process him. We're going to release him. Again, there was another legal issue, and I'll let his or his attorneys address that issue. I'm supposed to sit down with him and a few of the pastors after this get-together. And again, there was another situation, legal thing, but it's something that, in my opinion, ICE should not be, with all due respect, they should not be going after nuns that are going off to church on a Sunday morning, or pastors that are going off to a religious retreat. I think there's other things that they can focus on, like, for example, criminals. If people are in the process, and I've noticed this when I was at the detention center in Dilley, when I visited this back in 2014, they had people that had crossed and they were trying to figure out what to do with them, recent crossers. When I was there recently, there were people that were in the interior, had been picked up, and almost every person, I think at least the ones I talked to, they were already in the system. Like the sister, Leticia, like the pastor, their paperwork. And when they're in the system, it's easy to find them because there's a record on them. And I think that type of emphasis is not what we ought to be having ICE. Briefly, and then I'll let Julio and the father, if you want to say something. I sit on Homeland Appropriations, a top Democrat. Don't want to get political. November, things change. Then I take a different position where I actually get to write bills. I try to put language, and it's all on the appropriation here. It's open on. It's open there. You can see that on C-SPAN. But basically, judicial warrants for going into some place. My colleagues, the Republicans, said no. Body cameras, which they did have body cameras in inventory. They said no. Not going to sensitive areas like a church, a hospital, a school. They rejected that. And down the line, there were like 5 major things that we try to add there. I did get one language which was very important to me. It is part of the bill, but it doesn't become final to the end of the year, and I think it would have an impact on a lot of these cases, was for many years we had language that said ICE will focus on criminals. And remember, President Obama deported more people than other folks, but he was focused on criminals. So it got taken out after an election in 2016. My colleagues on the other party took it out, and I've been trying to add it back where it says, very simple, instructions, not a maybe, may, I shall focus on criminal elements. And that's the way it should be. So it's in the bill right now, but it's not final yet till the bill becomes final at the end of the year. I think we're supposed to do a CR to December 4th, continue resolution. So those are some of the things that I think some of the things I mentioned, whether you don't go target churches or schools and all that, or you focus on criminals, I think it would have an impact on cases like we have here today. So before I say a few words in Espanol, Portuguese, I'll let Julio and Father say a few words.
Thank you, Congressman, and thank you for being here and for doing all the work that we did to make this happen and secure the release. What we're facing here right now is I think a big crisis, and right now what we're seeing is a crisis of fear, and an economy and a community that's driven off of fear, I believe, is no community or economy at all. And what we've been fighting for is we rely on our elected representatives to fight on behalf of things, and sometimes there are things that you can do on the outskirts level that we can do to reform certain forms of our immigration system that I believe has gone much too far, and ICE has driven to what it is right now, and I think it's gone more rogue than it needs to be. And instead of focusing on criminal elements and investigations to keep people safe, we are seeing them going after people like Sister Letty. They're going after people, as the Congressman mentioned, all over, who have no criminal proceedings behind them, no criminal history, nothing like that, that want to go through these processes. And we try to work with things on the outskirts level. We try to work with things at the federal level to make sure that we can have cameras for ICE members, or at the state level to make sure that the state government isn't complicit in these kinds of immigration raids. And we want to make sure that we have those things as well. But we need to talk about more comprehensive reforms in terms of how the federal government takes care of those issues, takes care of federal immigration and enforcement. How enforcement is made. The federal government has a lot of discretion in what they enforce and what they don't. and you know, if it's not going to be done at the executive level, and we're really hoping that we can get things through at the legislative level to make sure that the federal government at the executive level has those happen. So I want to thank Father. Thank you for having us here, and it was a great time meeting with everybody. I'm free to take those questions, and I just want to thank the media press for being here as well, because this, as someone like my aunt who was recently under detention, media pressure does work within these procedures. When we're talking about a lot of for every one Sister Letty, we're talking about thousands of others that fall through the cracks that don't get those media attentions.
That's true.
So,
That's so true.
So we want to make sure that we can bring people together, bring attention to this issue, and continue on from there. The untold. So standing here with the Catholic Church and with the community at large, standing with the untold thousands and millions of people that are operating off of a fear of what is happening at this in federal immigration policy. We want to make sure that we're working together to make sure that those things are not as draconian as they are right now. So we can't have that community driven off of fear. We're looking forward to the future. Thank you, Congressman. Father, if you have any statements.
I too would like to reiterate my thanks to Congressman Cuellar for all that he did to help secure the release of Sister Letty. When I found out about what happened that Sunday, I was on vacation, so when I got the news, I was shocked that something like this could happen to a nun. So, but at the same time, we're grateful that so many people, like the Congressman, were able to do so much to secure her release. But at the same time, we're also concerned about so many people that are falling through the cracks. They have no advocate for them, and they're disappearing, and we don't know where they are. Families are being split apart. So we do want to find a balance, and I think, Congressman, you alluded to that. ICE has a role. However, has it gone in a direction where we're disrespecting the dignity of so many people? Are we splitting families apart? Are we not helping them achieve whatever it is that's going to help them in their fight for freedom? So again, Congressman, thank you for all that you did for Sister Letty.
Let me say something to follow up on Father and Julio. Carlos, I'm going to say something. I was going to keep everything confidential, but there's one thing I got to bring up in our conversation that really bothered me about what was done. Look, cameras, when Minnesota happened, ICE had cameras. When the Houston shooting happened, they had cameras. They had cameras inventory. I've been doing Homeland for 10 years appropriation, so they had cameras. They made a conscious decision not to have cameras. Now, we gave them another $20 million to buy more cameras. They sat on it, so we called them in for the roundtable. Oh, guess what? We just put out the bid on it. But they had cameras, but there was a decision. Now, because of what happened in Houston, I said, what are y'all doing in Texas? They said, priorities in Texas is they send 800 plus cameras and training for ICE officers in Houston. Harlingen, which covers this area here, is another priority. They haven't given me how many cameras they're going to send, and we want all the ICE agents to have cameras. So this is one of the priorities. San Antonio is the other area where they're going to send cameras. So I'm waiting for them to give me that. El Paso is the other one also. So we're waiting on that. But if I can say this, and I'm keeping everything confidential, but there was something that said, the reason cameras are very important, and remember, they made a decision not to have cameras. They had cameras on it, but they chose not to use it. The sister said that, I guess they didn't think she knew Spanish, and she said something that they started saying things that were not very nice in Spanish, thinking that ella no hablaba español, and she does know a few words. Now, if they had cameras, all that would have been cut up. The whole conversation. And as I told ICE, and I told them, those cameras are good for your officers but they're also good for the public. It brings, kind of calms people down when they know there's a camera looking at them. And if they would have had cameras, we would have known what would have happened.
De-escalation.
Yeah, de-escalation would happen with cameras there. But the fact, and sorry, I'm not talking about anything, but just the fact that she said, you know, they thought that no hablaba español, and they were saying things that were not very nice. Those officers should be professionals, should treat people with respect on it, and I think cameras, training, everything, all the amendments that I'm trying to add would have brought that down. And I say that because it is very, very important. So, unas palabras en español. Comenzamos con Julio y el padre. Aquí mis palabras van a ser en portugués. No, I'm just kidding. You speak Portuguese. I like that. Okay.
No.
Unas palabras en español.
Claro, no, nomás le quería agradecer, repetir un poquito de lo que estaba pasando, de lo que acabamos de decir en inglés. El congresista, muchas gracias por todo lo que has hecho para asegurar que se pueda salir Letty para que salga de aquí. Estamos viendo que un sistema de migración del nivel federal ahorita está operando para inyectar temor a la gente, y eso no es lo que queremos hacer. Lo que queremos hacer es hacer una reforma migratoria para que se enfoquen más en los elementos criminales y no los elementos no criminales, lo que está pasando aquí en todo el valle y todo Texas. Estados Unidos ahorita estamos viendo mucho temor y está pasando cosas negativas en bases de la comunidad y en bases de la economía igualmente. Entonces estamos monitoreando mucho la situación con Letty y con toda la gente aquí para ver qué podemos hacer para reformar no nomás las cosas pequeñas que podemos poner. El congresista que está hablando de cámaras con la gente, enforzar que los agentes tengan cámaras, pero igualmente enforzar que tengamos un sistema migratorio que es más justo, y que se enfoque mucho en los elementos criminales, y que también sea más justo en base de cómo pueden la gente que lo quiere hacer de la forma buena, de la forma correcta, cómo lo puede hacer, reformar para que sea más fácil para la gente, para que no tengan que ir todo. Aquí tenemos el abogado que tiene muchas cosas que hace él mismo, pero no debe ser tan difícil. No necesariamente estamos hablando tiene que ser muy fácil, pero no tiene que ser tan difícil como está ahorita, y eso es lo que estamos haciendo ahorita en la federal. Estamos hablando de eso. Las votaciones son muy importantes para esas cosas en noviembre, pero también a nivel estatal, donde podemos hablar sobre cómo el gobernador y cómo el gobernador y el estado de Texas está jugando junto con el nivel federal, qué tipo de papel debe de tener el gobernador y el estado. Y aquí estoy le agradezco mucho al padre estar aquí. Si tienes cualquier palabra, por favor.
Sí, en el nombre de la hermana Leticia y la parroquia, muchísimas gracias por su ayuda en este caso.
Gracias, Padre. Gracias, Julio. Let me just say something in English, and I'll go into Spanish. We were with the South Texas Builders, and you heard the stories. After that, we went over to Palmview, where we sat down with more business people. And there was something there that also struck me. There were business people there and public officials, but the person that was hosting us said, I'm in the construction business. A year ago, I had 280 people working for me. Now I got 40 to 50 people. People don't want to come and work for me because they're afraid. And it's not only, migrants, but there are people that are Americans that we don't want to do that. They don't want to show up to work. They don't want to show up to church. They don't want to go to schools. Talk to your schools also. So there's this fear that has come up. So I say that because how do you go from 280 people to about 40 to 50 people? That's a fear. If there's fear in the community, it should be the criminals that should be fearing ICE. The fear should be by the criminals and not like nuns like Sister Leticia or the pastor with that. I mean, that's not the fear that we want. So it's having a negative impact. En español, mira, lo quiero dar gracias al padre, mi amigo Julio aquí. Estamos tratando de ayudar. Tuvimos una junta en privada. El abogado, el señor García puede hablar un poco más del pasos que se van a tomar legalmente, pero una cosa, lo que hicieron es, ICE no debe poner enfoque en las hermanas como Leticia o el pastor que iba a ir a una junta de Billy Graham, o aquí un domingo iba a la misa en la mañana, un domingo. Como digo, hablamos, se arregló esto en los dos casos, pero hay unos pasos que se va a necesitar que tomar y eso es algo que el abogado va a hablar. Francamente, el enfoque debe ser los criminales, punto. Y quiero regresar con la ley que había, que ya tuve el éxito, pero no es final hasta el fin del año, cuando se pase el presupuesto, donde dice ICE va a poner el enfoque en los criminales. Finally, let me just say this. I don't believe in abolishing ICE. I don't believe in defunding the police. There's a role for them. But they have to have the right safeguards. What ICE is doing right now is not right. It is not correct. Everything that we had before January of 2025, the way we used to do it was very differently, and that's what we're trying to do. Queremos hacer el enfoque cambiar, no eliminar ICE o la policía, pero necesitamos que tener las reformas donde ICE pone el enfoque en los criminales y no como Sister Leticia o el pastor. Ese es un enfoque. Hay mucho miedo, como dijo Julio, en la comunidad. Si va a haber miedo, debe ser miedo de los elementos criminales y no de la comunidad generalmente. All right. Well, I'll take all the easy questions. Julio and the father will take all the hard questions. I'll just say, that's a good question.
That's a great question.
That's a great question.
Father, what's your opinion?
Yeah, what's your opinion, Father?
Sir, the question I have is, you could explain, the United Conventions Against Torture, which was the protection given that the judge gave to Sister Leticia, how does that work?
Yeah, and again, any legal questions, I will have Carlos or the attorney, the legal representative, answer on that.
The other one I have is...
I mean, I'm familiar with everything, but I'm not, as a
Preferably-
congressman, the attorney will explain
We'll
that.
leave that to him. Sir, the only one, with all this, conversation that you have with City Lay today, basically, what kind of, ideas you got to propose when you go back to DC?
Yeah, well, I have already tried to put amendments on the appropriation. I sit on Homeland, and I made proposals for judicial warrants to be used before they go into a private home. I'll stay straightforward. The Republicans said no. I said use cameras, even though they had cameras, thousands of them, and I know exactly how many they have, but I can't go into how many, but they had thousands of cameras. They made a decision not to use cameras. I said, you're not going to go into sensitive areas like churches, hospitals, schools, places like that. Party vote, my Republican friend said no. And again, I can go down the line. I was successful with one thing that was I told the chairman, I want all those amendments, but I said, this is important. ICE will focus on criminal elements the way it was before 2017. That language is there, and it's not a may, think about it. It says ICE shall focus their resources on criminal elements, period, aliens. That is in there, but it doesn't become final on that. Now, ICE, I do appropriations. We have oversight over that. The Republicans on the big, beautiful bill, where they cut Medicare, health care, food, etc., all that, they added billions of dollars to ICE. Then they passed another bill where they added billions of dollars to Homeland. A total of $260 billion outside the appropriations, because the reconciliation is considered to be outside. I voted against that. Now, do I work with Homeland? Of course, in appropriations. But when they put $260 billion outside the control of appropriations, I'm a no. I'm going to use another word. I'm a heck no on it, Father. I'm a no on it, a strong no on it. If you recall, tied in this reconciliation, back in 2019, I was the one that added the language to protect SpaceX. I don't know if Elon Musk knows that, but SpaceX president knows that. SpaceX, Benson Park, the Santa Ana, the chapel, the Butterfly Center, the historical cemeteries. I added that protection. Under the big, beautiful bill, what are they trying to do? They're trying to say that money is outside appropriation, so we're going to put a border wall. So in this appropriation, I added language that says, very limited, that says the big, beautiful bill, money, all that reconciliation will be under appropriation, so you cannot build a wall. So it's in there, but what are they trying to do? And we were there at the chapel and La Lomita, and guess what they're doing? They're trying to beat the clock. They know what the legislature is said, and we're trying to do. They're trying to beat the clock using non-appropriated dollars called the reconciliation, like they're using that on ICE right now. That I disagree.
Congressman, as a follow-up to that question, for those who may not know what appropriations mean, can you just kind of connect that this is all about spending and how much money this agency gets? So when you're writing these rules and languages, can you just tie the goal of that and how you're trying to tie those rules to the money they get?
Article 1 of the Constitution says that Congress appropriates the dollar. It's not the president, it's not the judges, it is Congress under Article 1. Article 1 of the Constitution also says that we have a responsibility of oversight. Appropriate dollars and oversight. We do an appropriations every year. We do 12 appropriations. In Austin, there's one. The church has one. Congress has 12 because it is such a large amount of dollars, trillions of dollars that we have. So when we appropriate, it's under the appropriations. They tell us if they're going to move money around. We tell them how to spend the money. When they do the reconciliation, which I voted against the reconciliation, it's considered to be outside the appropriation. So they're now saying, you can't control us on that. How can you give the administration, I don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican, you cannot give any administration, the executive branch, monies without accountability and oversight by Congress. So when they gave $260 billion, not million, billion dollars to Homeland, about $70 billion to ICE, $46.5 billion to do the border wall, that's outside the appropriation. So what we're trying to do is to put all that money under the, I'll say it, under the control of the Congress. But unfortunately, the other party don't want to do that. And if you want to hear a historical constitutional argument I had, I said, guys, I don't care if you're Democrats or Republicans. The founding fathers didn't say, oh yeah, one president gets it, the other president doesn't get it. It doesn't work that way. Article 1 of the Constitution on that.
If your Republican colleagues voted in favor of your body camera amendment, what would that have meant?
That would have meant that the ICE would have been wearing the cameras. We added more monies for the cameras, but they had cameras in inventory. They chose not to wear cameras in Minnesota, in Houston, in other places. And then now we had a roundtable. We asked the chairman and the ranking member, said, can we talk about body cameras? That was the whole purpose, just to talk about one issue, body cameras. And I got all the details, how many cameras they had in inventory, not only ICE, OFO, which are the men and women in blue, Border Patrol cameras. I've been pushing on Border Patrol, have cameras for a long time. That's a different issue, but they are wearing more cameras now. But the ICE, they had cameras, and if they would have worn the cameras, when they picked up Sister Leticia, we would have seen the conversation. And what bothered me, and I told the attorney I was not, it's all confidential what happened, but I gotta say, that single thing, that they thought she couldn't speak Spanish, and they started saying things in Spanish, that bothered me, because they didn't say that very nicely. A couple other questions, and then I'm supposed to go see the pastor.
Bueno, en
Pastors.
español.
Sí, cómo no.
En el caso de la hermana Leticia, ¿usted qué va a hacer para ayudarla?
Bueno, primero salí, ya salió. Hay unos pasos que el abogado va a tomar con el diócesis y son buen abogado y tienen la buena representación. Entiendo los pasos que vienen y si hay una manera que yo pueda ayudar y lo voy a dejar a ese punto, dependiendo en el abogado, voy a hacer todo lo posible. Sé lo que son los otros pasos, pero el abogado es la mejor persona que puede hablar del caso legal.
Una pregunta más. En su momento vimos que eran doctores los que detenían en los aeropuertos o cualquier otro lugar, personal médico. Recientemente hemos visto líderes religiosos. ¿Algún mensaje que usted le pueda dar a esta gente, a los líderes religiosos, a personas que participan en una religión, que dan un servicio también a la comunidad, que probablemente se sientan incómodos en este punto?
Nosotros queremos poner el enfoque de ICE en el elemento criminal. Pero, eso es algo que lo voy a hacer. Si tienen papeles, un R1 o otros papeles, deben de revisar esos papeles. Ir a hablar con el abogado, con su iglesia, para que esté todo correcto, porque ellos están buscando puntos técnicos, y ellos saben dónde estás, porque tienen toda la información. Pero si tienen unos papeles, deben revisar los papeles, el R1, visa, los otros papeles, que esté todo correcto y hacer esto, porque están usando, como lo digo, I don't know how you say this in Spanish, están buscando low-hanging fruit. I saw that in Delhi. It was low-hanging fruit. People, they were not coming in across the river. They were in the interior in the process of dreamers going to school in San Antonio and other folks. There was even one case where a lady was going to self-deport herself. They picked her up in the airport, and she was going to go off to Honduras. And she was there with her family, and they said, no, you're going to go to Delhi. Now, detention centers serve a purpose. But when you hold there people for too long, money plays a role. And I understand the role of detention centers. I understand that. But on it, I told the officers there, or the folks there, I said, hey, she was going to self-deport. Well, we're going to check. And they said, well, yeah, she was do that. And by the way, you owe her and her family $2,000. So that's $8,000 that you owe her, because remember, they're going to pay, I think, $2,000 per person. So make sure you pay that family $8,000. They were going to self-deport. They're looking for low-hanging fruit. I don't know how you low-hanging fruit, pero están buscando los casos fácil. Los casos fácil, donde tienen la información de esas personas. Y como digo, si tienes una visa, lo debes de revisar correctamente, porque están usando puntos técnicos para levantar esas personas. My staff is saying I got to go see the pastors.
Not actually an important one about the Sozayas, the married couple that were detained at the airport. I was just wondering if you could, one, comment on your role in securing the release, and then two, your reaction to ICE now using airports.
You're talking about the pastors,
Yeah.
Salcedo? Yeah. I got a call from, as I mentioned, from a pastor in Laredo, Gilbert Velez, told me what happened. I then asked him to send me all the information. He sent me all the information. I then contacted a person in D.C., and I said, seriously? I was said this very nicely. Seriously, this first and not a pastor. Don't we have other people that we need to focus on? He then got on process and released.
And what's your reaction to reporting that ICE agents are now using airports as a staging ground?
And my staff that does a lot of work, they do a lot of work right now. Every Monday we have a staff meeting, and I say, okay, how many cases do you have? What are you working on? What's the number one priority? I don't care if it's in San Antonio. I don't care if it's in Rio Grande City. I don't care if it's in Laredo. The number one is immigration. And the easy cases that we can work on, they made it very difficult. You know, they're making it very difficult. This should be, if people are trying to do it the right way, keep it flowing, keep it moving. They're making even the, what I call the easy constituent work, very, very difficult on that.
I think
All
he's
right.
referring to a market rise in detentions at airports.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. They're focusing now on easy cases, and they have all that history, and we're seeing that they're, like in this case, they're going to be flying to a Billy Graham retreat. They know they picked them up on that. Yeah, I mean, they're looking, where can we find you? Either we find you at your church where you're walking, or you know what, you're going to be flying in, so we're going to catch you in where, at an airport. It's, again, I hate using the word this, I don't mean any disrespect, low-hanging fruit, you know, because they got, I mean that, by that I mean they got all the information on that. And my staff is saying, we're going to go talk to the pastor and some of the other pastors right now on that. So, again, I want to thank our soon-to-be state representative. And, Father, it's always
Pleasure.
a pleasure on that.
To see you,
Father, can you say
Congressman.
and spell
Thank you
your
so
name?
much.
Can you say and spell your name, Father?
Father Greg Labus, Labus.
And then
Julio Salinas, JULIO SALINAS.
Your position?
Candidate for Texas House, District 41.
Yeah, the next state representative. I like that.
Right.
And I thought I started early. I started at 29 and 30. He's 26. That's good. He's going to get a good head start.
I'm
That's
the
pretty
youngest.
good. All right, thank you. Thank you.
God bless you all.
All right.
Let's go.
But you're right. You know, that thing, my staff sent me a note. They said they're starting to focus on airports.